All right, special thing. Oh wait, this thing. Okay, it just started. Special thanks goes to Vulcan Wolverine for finding this and for keeping on tabs on this. Now then, everybody, when it comes to TIs, all fellow TIs out there, if you are seeing this right now, the United Nations has just confirmed that directed energy torture exists. So, to all the people who are out there basically discrediting TIs, you might want to be careful with your words from this point on because if you have anything else to say past this point, you're going to be outed as paid opposition. So, if you need proof, it will be in the description. Also, Vulcan has other links you may want to check out as well. The video is like that he posted was like around like an hour or so long. Definitely want to check the rest of those links out, but this is the one I especially wanted to show everybody. So UN starts investigation to ban cyber torture. UN starts investigating. Oh yeah, cyber torture. Magnus Olson, Geneva, 8th March 2020. UN Human Rights Council (HRC) special reporter on torture revealed during the 43rd HRC that cyber technology is not only used for internet and 5G, it is also used to target individuals remotely through intimidation, harassment, and public shaming. Remember, some of you all may have seen the live stream that I did when I went outside. The meter I was holding up, that's what that was. The entire time I was walking outside, they were beaming me with that stuff. All that time. This is something that they have been experimenting on me since I was a child. I know this because I've had the symptoms, and I know this because of the same similar setups that have happened. I can verify that has also happened with my mother. Whatever this has started with her, and it worked its way towards me at some point, possibly during her targeting. On the 20th of February in Geneva, Professor Niles Melzar, UN Special Reporter on Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman, Degraded Treatment and Punishment, has officially confirmed that cyber torture exists and an investigation is now underway on how to tackle it legally. Electrical magnetic radiation, you saw the meter going up as I was walking outside. If you need verification, just go straight to the live stream. To that live stream when I was outside, you'll see the street theater playing out. You'll see the whole scripted conversations happening. You'll see all of that. The meter doesn't lie. The entire time I'm walking, radiation of high levels were basically on me the entire time. Electrical magnetic radiation, radar, and surveillance technology are used to transfer sounds and thoughts into people's brains. Humans started their investigation after receiving thousands of testimonies from so-called targeted individuals, TIs. Professor Niles Melzer is an expert in international law, and since 2006, he holds the human rights chair at the Geneva Academy of International Humanitarian Law and Human Rights. His team has found evidence that cyber technology is used to inflict severe mental and physical sufferings. Judges think that physical torture is more serious than cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. He told The Guardian on the 21st February. Torture is simply the deliberate instrumentalization of a pain and suffering. These psychological torture methods are often used to circumvent the ban on torture because they don't leave any visible marks. Cyber psychologically systems like cognitive radio are used to interrupt human perceptions and memory. They can also be used to spy on people, violating personal integrity, which could lead to corruption and slavery in society. This is what I've been talking about the whole time. Because if someone is picking around in your brain with electronics, when it comes to crime, the blame lies on the person using that technology, picking around in someone's brain due to that manipulation. I'm gonna read that again. Cyber psychological systems like cognitive radio are used to interrupt human perceptions, and memory. They can also be used to spy on people, violating personal integrity, which could lead to corruption and slavery in society. Cyber torture is also called no touch torture or brain machine interface. One way to handle this situation is to regulate new technologies and use AI control mechanisms by independent and impartial investigators. The evidence gathered could then be used to convict criminals easier and quicker in the future. Professor Melzar and his team is now underway to create an international legal framework covering cyber technologies that can cause torture, which previously was hard to prove. In the future, it may be necessary to establish radio frequency spectrum police in order to protect humanity from cyber terrorism. Now's Melzar also revealed to me personally that the HRC will release several reports on this subject soon in the future. Looks like Owen warns of rise cyber torture to bypass physical ban. The Guardian. Let's check that out. The Guardian. UN warns of rise of cyber torture to bypass. Let me exit out of that. Get off. Physical ban. Reporter warns against tribalism, psychological torture as states exploit internet to target individuals. Psychological torture is being exploited by states to. I'm being hit pretty bad, everybody. Even right now, as I am going over this. Circumvent the more widely understood ban on physical inflicted pain and may open the way to the future of the cyber torture. The UN torture reporter has said Niles Melzar, professor of international law at the University of Glasgow and the UN special reporter on torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, is cautioning that the internet could be used systematically to target individuals remotely through intimidation, harassment, surveillance, public shaming, and defamation. A trenchant critic of the UA government's failure to uphold inequity into the rendition of Jannah suspects post 9/11, Melzar has also voiced concerns over the Britain's treatment of the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange in Belmarsh prison. Later this month, the professor, who is Swiss, will present a report to the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, highlighting his concerns over continued development of psychological tortures and legal misconceptions about what conduct is prohibited by international treaty. His comments coincide with the UK release of a documentary, Imminent Monsters, a manual for modern torture, which investigates covert CIA funding in the 1950s of techniques developed by the Scottish-born physicians Dr. Ewan Cameron, and they are just literally hitting me relentless with this damn weapon. They do not want people seeing this. The documentary, directed by BAFTA-winning filmmaker Stephen Bennett, shows how patients were subjected to the sensory deprivation, forced comas, LSD injections, and extreme physical mental torture at a Canadian research establishment run by Cameron. These techniques, the documentary claims, were forerunners of methods used on the so-called hooded men. I'm going to catch those assholes who are doing this. I'm going to catch their faces at some point. You best believe I will. Who were subjected to the white noise, put in stress positions, threatened and deprived of sleep, food, and water, and beaten after being arrested during internment in the Northern Ireland in 1971. Similar techniques were later inflicted by U.S. forces in Jeddah, suspected detained in Guantanamo Bay. I don't know why they got that there. 2018 judgment of the Hooded Men case was reopened. The European Court of Human Rights referred to the abuse of the 14 men almost 50 years before amounted to inhuman and degrading treatment, but did not constitute torture. That distinction, Melzar argues is wrong. Judges think that the physical torture is more serious than cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. He held the Guardian torture is simply the deliberate instrumentalization of pain and suffering. Oh, man. You know what? Where's that damn meter? That's what I need right now. If you guys hear it going off, then you know what they're doing. As I've already showed it before. And yes, even as I speak, they got people listening in. So if they turn it off when I turn this meter on, it's just because they're trying to cover their asses. Where did I put that darn thing? I've been hit pretty bad this whole time, even since yesterday. And it seems like my suspicions was right. Even Kyle's being hit pretty bad, and I'm pretty certain it isn't just me and him being hit this bad. And I believe what they're doing is they're trying to basically rush into this mess because they're with them being investigated and them still doing this. There's a pretty fucking good chance they're gonna get caught. Like a pretty big chance, considering they're gonna get caught. I'm almost certain of that. Now, I'm giving out one more warning. People who have been basically trying to say that targeted individuals are schizophrenic or they just don't know what they're talking about, this is going to be the last warning. Because if you are out there discrediting TIs to the point to where you're trying to call them schizophrenic or crazy, anything like that, you need to understand you're going to expose yourself if you do that. So if I were you, I wouldn't do that, okay? But understand, if you do it at this point, you're basically will be identifying yourself as paid opposition. So don't say that nobody didn't warn you about that. But also to every TI who watches this, it shouldn't go without saying that if you catch that, definitely let everybody know about it. If you catch that, definitely let everybody know about it. And that's what's key about this, because the more and more we catch paid opposition, the more and more we stand a chance at exposing this corrupt organization for what it is. I highly believe that they are going to be stopped, but at the same time, we got to do the best we can to basically break ourselves from this system so that we can continue gather evidence and we're not manipulating. Let me tell you something. This is coming from a TI who's experienced with basically manipulated him into accidentally losing evidence. That voice recorder that I had got stolen. Stolen evidence to basically prevent their bullshit from being exposed. All of the conversations that I had with these perps when it came to their corruptive setups, when I confronted them about the stuff they were doing, gone, stolen. The stuff, from the noise harassment that they do, for many different things, I was only lucky enough to at least put a fraction of some of the stuff on there. The audio log from the McDonald's incident is one of such audio log that was basically on that device. So I had plenty of evidence, but it was stolen. Not the only thing that came up stolen out of my possession. So this is going down to the point to even everybody involved. Anybody involved in the psychological torture, anybody involved in the damn street theater, the gang stalking, all of that crap, you've been warned, because they're going to find you. They're going to find the people who are paying you to do this. They will find you. When they do, if you are still caught doing this, you're going to pay dearly for it. That's the only warning you're going to get, and that's the only warning you're ever going to get. If nobody did warn you then, I'm warning you now. Back the fuck off. Leave TIs alone. Otherwise, you're going to see where that's going to basically get you. I'm doing the best I can to help people, but to break free from this, because that's what's mostly important. They already started the investigation on this. That is the leeway, the open window that we needed. That is the open window that we needed, because if you end up start investigating that, then you have a better chance at turning the tide on this bullshit that's basically plaguing the countries today. You stand a better chance at overturning it. Now, as far as voting, I'm only going to tell you to trust on your gut on that one. I'm not one to basically pinpoint anybody when it comes to politics, because I'm not a politician. I never voted in my life. That's just me. But I'm not one to basically, just go with your gut on that one. It turns out Trump is being said that he is doing some good. I mean, you go with Trump, but from my perspective, I honestly see controlled opposition on both sides because when I'm looking at the coronavirus task force, when I'm seeing that, I'm seeing several people in there who are responsible for the shit that literally happened. I'm not counting Trump, but I'm talking about Fauci, Obama. Who else? When I don't think Bill Gates was in there. I think maybe he was in there. I don't know. But several of these people who are responsible for this shit are responsible for basically handling a task force. Are you getting mental? Seriously? And you see, that's the problem what I have with politics. And when you start you see, it's like it's controlled opposite. It's literally controls on both sides. That's the problem that I have. That's just me. That is just me. But despite this, here's the deal. It's still just as dangerous to stay within the cities because of what is going on. These people are rushing into this because they know they're not going to be able to hold on to this bullshit for long. There's no way they're going to be able to keep this shit up. There's no way, man. So that's why they're rushing to get this shit on the way as best they can because they know time is of the essence. But you don't. It's gonna get to a point where things are gonna get dangerous, and that's what I want people to not be around. People don't need to be around that kind of shit because, dude, people have families, man. Kids ain't gonna be able to protect. Kids can't protect themselves from that. And then you got the DEWs out there. That's the main thing we need to get rid of is those DEW weapons. Those things need to not be used, man. They need to just be destroyed. The blueprints don't need to be destroyed, but keep the methods to protect people from it in case someone sneaks off with documentations to still rebuild the stuff elsewhere. Keep the use of protection of that, but also, I guess when it comes to making it more aware, that's where the key lies in when it comes to stopping. But man, dude, this is just one of the things why it's important for TIs to basically get yourself. Here's what I'm going to tell you what you need to get. Get yourself an EMF meter, an actual EMF meter, a Gauss meter. Get one of those. I'm afraid you could normally just use the app on your phone, but with this, when it comes to legal stuff, get an actual meter. Get one of those. That you can't go wrong with doing that. Get yourself an actual EMF meter, and then use the screen recorder. Just use a screen recorder, and take the time and dates for when they are using these weapons down on you. Use the anti-nano bucket. Use that. Get a sample of the stuff that is being drained out of your system to prove that there is nano poisoning in your system. Why? Because they need to lace you with nano poisoning to basically do what they're doing, to turn you into an antenna. That's why they do it. That's why it's in the food supply. That's why it's all in your clothes. That's why they do this shit. That's why it's even in your ventilation systems when it comes to your AC. Oh, in case you didn't know, don't ever use the AC. Don't ever use it. Because what that thing does, and I didn't even know, but I knew something was off with it, so I just decided not to fuck with it. So I had my suspicions, but when I went over that article, it just basically confirmed it. So no, don't ever use the AC unit because it's just got nanoparticles all in the filter. But definitely get yourself an actual Gauss meter and an EMF meter, and start taking down evidence. When you do that, right? When you do that, Save it to something like on a removable flash drive or something like that. Save it to that. The type of flash drive I got is the one that can basically plug right up into the phone, the your device, and you can actually have the other end of it plug into a computer or a laptop. I use that type, and I should get an adapter for it too, actually. But I use that type because it's a lot more convenient to store the evidence that I catch. Um, Still can't seem to figure out where I left that darn gauze meter. Dang. Maybe it's in my vest. I usually keep a lot of my equipment in that thing. But what else did I have left? I need to finish this while I still can. The stitch that Melzar argues is wrong to judge to think that the physical torture is more serious than the cruel, inhuman, or degradation treatment. He holds the Guardian torture is simply the deliberate instrumentalization of pain and suffering. Consequently, psychological torture methods are often used to circumvent the ban on torture because they don't leave any visible marks. In this UN report, Melzar points out that the many countries deny, neglect, misinterpret, or trivialize physical torture as what could be as femicide, I don't even know how to pronounce that, described as torture light, whereas real torture is still predominantly understood to require the infliction of physical pain or suffering. Some states have even adopted national definitions of torture, including mental pain or suffering, or interpretations require that in order to constitute torture, mental pain or suffering must be caused by the threat or inflicted of physical pain or suffering, threats of imminent death, or profound mental disruption. Tendency for turning dresses for I don't even know. I'm not done. Many countries have invested significant resources towards developing methods of torture which can achieve purposes of coercive intimidation, punishment, humiliation, or discrimination without causing readily identifiable physical harm or traces. Melzar states some of these approaches have resurfaced most prominently in connection with interrogational torture in the context of counterterrorism, deterrence based on detention of irregular migrants, alleged mass internment for purpose of political re-education, and the abuse of individual prisoners of conscience. An alarming development that Melzar contemplates is cyber torture. States that corporate actors and organized criminals, he says, not only have the capacity to conduct cyber operations inflicting severe suffering on countless individuals, but may well decide to do so for any of the purposes of torture. Cyber technology can also be used to inflict or contribute to severe mental suffering while avoiding the conduit of physical body, most notably through intimidation, harassment, surveillance, public shaming, and defamation, as well as the proliferation, deletion, or manipulation of information. Already, harassment in comparatively limited environments can expose targeted individuals to extreme, elevated, and prolonged levels of anxiety, stress, social isolation, and depression, and significantly increase the risk of suicide. Arguably, therefore, much more systematic government-sponsored threats and harassment delivered through cyber technologies not only entail situations of effective powerlessness, but may well inflict levels of anxiety, stress, shame, and guilt amounting to severe mental suffering, as required for a finding of torture. In his UN report, Melzar pays tribute to eminent monsters for showing the origins of and devastation effects of contemporary psychological torture. Such experiments, he added, should be prevented in the future. Of the UK's government decision last year not to hold a judicial inquiry into post 9/11 redemption, Melzar told The Guardian, "I'm very worried the Convention Against Torture requires it. The refusal sets as an example that we don't really have to investigate and prosecute." America faces an epic choice in the coming year, and the results will define the country for a generation. These are perilous times. Over the last 3 years, much of what The Guardian holds dear has been threatened: democracy, civility, and truth. Science and reasons are in a battle with conjecture and instinct to determine public policy in this time of a pandemic. Partnership and economic interests are playing their part too. Meanwhile, misinformation, falsehoods are routine at a time like this. An independent news organization that fights for data over dogma and fact over fake is not just optional, it is essential. The Guardian has been significantly impacted by the pandemic. Like many other news organizations, we are facing an proceeding collapse in an advertising revenue. We rely to an ever greater extent on our readers, both for the moral force to continue doing journalism at a time like this and for the financial strength to facilitate that reporting. We believe every one of us deserves equal access to fact-based news and analysis. We've decided to keep Guardian journalism free for all readers, regardless of where they live or what they can afford to pay. This is made possibly thanks to the support we receive from readers across America in all 50 states. As our business model comes under even greater pressure, we'd love your help so that we can carry out our essential work. Support The Guardian from as little as $1. It only takes a minute. Thank you. Support The Guardian. I definitely wouldn't mind doing that, but I probably would just get like a side card to do that or something. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end that here. That's basically all that was in that thing, if you all were wondering.